Ladies and gentlemen, it's now 7 o'clock. I call this meeting of the General Government Public Safety Committee to order. Should we have roll? Yes. Excellent. Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we move on to the agenda item for comments from citizens, I want to remind everybody that we need you to have your microphone on before you speak, and for the public to stand at the mic and speak. We're recording this, plus we've had some comments from citizens about the inability to hear people when they're being amplified. So, that being said, moving on to comments.
Yeah,
Sure.
Evelyn Robertson came to my office the other day and she was complaining about the lack of being able to understand people. She said that some of the people lean away from the microphone, it makes it very difficult for her to hear. And she would just appreciate if people would actually speak into the microphone where she could understand it.
Thank you.
That probably goes for the camera as well.
It's very important for the camera. All right, moving on to comments from citizens. If you would stand, give your name and your address, please.
I'm Don Bagley, 711 East Brick Street, Centralia. I want to talk to you for just a minute about a subject that I've talked to you before about, so I hope you don't get bored and tired listening to it. You know, we just spent about $50,000 on a downtown business, remaking it right that had been damaged. We're working on a Narragansett building that we've worked on, spent quite a bit of money on, and I'm sure at this point you don't know how much more you're going to spend on it before it's settled. Nothing we can do about it. During the past, that money would have went a long way on storm drains or streets or something, but we used it for what we used it for. I don't know where the next Narragansett building is going to be, or where the next building on Allen Street is going to be. But I do know that there's a property maintenance code that's available to you, that you could adopt. And when something like that happens, it would give you some leverage to force those people to do that work that you all had to do because you didn't have a property maintenance code to protect you. I've mentioned it to you before, and I understand that there's a lot of reservations about it because you worry about what can happen. Granted, any rules, any regulations, any codes can be abused. There's no question about it. That's up to the council to make sure they're not. They can be abused. That's not a reason not to have them, because the council can protect people from abuse in that respect. Another question that's been asked before is who would do the inspections. I can only speak for what one community I know that does it very well, that's Kirkville, and the fire department does it there. You don't have to adopt the code in its entirety. You can go through and adopt a portion of the code, or you can delete some things from it. But I do think, well, in fact I know, that there's going to be another Narragansett, there's going to be another building downtown, sooner or later. It's just a matter of time. And I do think you ought to consider adopting a property maintenance code to try to ward off problems you're going to have with that. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Art Downs, 230 South Rollins. Last Monday I tried to deliver this clerk a document relevant to attending school board meetings, and wouldn't accept it, wouldn't sign it. So it appeared in the paper that it wasn't accepted. My view is that I'm being impeded to participate in school board meetings because of my financial hawking of their budget. That's my view of it. And the only reason I'm here is because your police department escorted me out a month ago based on me not sending an email to Darren Ford. Well, my brother went and took the note from me. I talked to Centralia Police Department in Boone County. They knew I was coming, but I didn't send an email. Here's the problem. Nothing ever goes through in straight and simple and true. Pathological dishonesty. When he went in, millions of dollars reserves. Where are they setting that now? Blue ribbon campaign, I don't even think that was legal. Should have been a red ribbon campaign. I wish jokes have been made about that. The point is, your police department is choosing to side with the school, okay? Great, rah-rah support. We discussed that earlier. All I'm telling you is this. They are stopping me for the simple reason because I've tracked them for a long time. I'm tracking this stuff too. And I don't want to get into a tussle with the police department. So you all get to choose. It's just that simple. I've never disrupted a meeting over there any more than this, the last time I said. So maybe the way I talk is a little, get a little excited sometimes, but I've seen a lot worse. At sporting events, the same thing. It's all fabricated. From the very start, when the first federal documents I got, I had 2 of your officials claiming that I was a threat to public safety. So, y'all want to go down the path, we can go. I'll put it in the paper. I'll do a gubernatorial mailing with my stuff. Everybody that votes, I'll mail it to their house. And then the last thing is, you guys may want to talk about the Missouri Office of Prosecution, P.O. Box 899, Jeff City. And some ethics training. Ethics training. And then send that over, and then I want to congratulate you on this system of recording. I heard some cameras at another meeting tonight, and it was very civil. That's what I heard. Wouldn't hurt them to maybe set up the same system across town you guys got. Then there wouldn't be a bunch of fabrication on the backside of what went on. And I want to thank you all for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
there was a second letter that we received today. We have a copy of. We didn't sign for it either. We did take a copy, particularly since one of them was emailed to us, and I made copies for your review. Still don't see how it affects the city, but you have it before you.
Absolutely.
Art, you do realize that we don't control the school board.
Do you control the police department?
The police department, when they're called over there, they are required to take action according to what they're doing. That's not us, that is what they are requesting the police department to do.
They're supposed to use their best judgment.
It's not up to them to make a determination as to what is right or wrong. That is up to the school board. If there's a problem with the school board, you need to take it up with them, not with the police department. The police department is merely enforcing what the school board has told them to do.
Do you control the police department? That's what I'm asking.
Not directly.
Who does in this town?
The police
He
department-
doesn't. I asked him, he said he doesn't.
The police department is their own department. They are under us, yes, but we do not have oversight and tell them what they can and cannot do. They are supposed to enforce the law. They are being requested by the school board to come in and to do something like that. That is what they are supposed to do at
Are
that point.
you sure that the school board told them to do that?
I'm pretty sure they didn't do it on their own.
Right. I said school board's what you said.
The school board is telling them what to do, not, they aren't making their own decisions as to
Well, I'll tell you what, here's what I'd like to ask for. I want the last 3 years of the police department's budget. and I'll come up here and don't want it copied. I want to come up here and look at it and see how much money's been spent in the last 3 years. I'll sit down in here and spend my time looking at your records. I'm not gonna pay the copy, I just wanna read them. I think you have better things to spend your money on.
Is it budget online?
The budget is online and the audits are online. So that doesn't give the audit isn't a line item thing, but it gives the police department and public safety end results. And for the last 3 or 4 years, the budget is online, and the first column under each activity is what was actually spent in the year that has been closed and audited. You can go online and get all that information.
No, online, I wanna come and look item by item and compare it to what I've seen and lived. It's just like that sidewalk we talked about. I read that online. And you said you had volumes of paperwork I could look at on that. So what all I'm doing is setting up a mechanism for me to come in as a citizen and look at the books. Can I do that in Centralia?
Sure.
Great.
Why not?
Why didn't you just answer that way in the first place?
Well, I was trying to save you time to have to come down here and,
Block away, man. It's getting ready to be a nice, cold winter, nothing to do. I think I'll just come on up and take a look.
Sure.
Mr. Dons, what is it that you would like for us to do for you to get you to be able to go to the school board meetings? Because we, like he was saying, we really don't have if they call the police, they come.
Who's they? Who are you talking about calling the
I don't know
police?
who called the police. Do you know who called the police, Tony?
which time?
I don't know, I'm assuming.
I've had several different
conversations.
conversations with administrators, reference, and mostly Mr. Ford, that, you know, letters that were given to Art and such as.
Letters or letter?
You know what I'm talking about, I've shown it to you.
A letter
You
stating.
received a copy of the letter, and I can't remember, you probably can tell me, dated in 2011 about you and the request for going to the school board and any of the activities, remember? Is that
No, I
correct?
went and requested all the books on soft money events from the school. I wanted
We're
to
talking
get,
about two totally different things.
no, same thing, one letter. No, there
We're
was
talking about two
last
totally
year.
different things. How is it you're supposed to request to go to a school board meeting?
Why is that?
How is it you're supposed to request to go to a school board
I
meeting?
just
Or
sent
is it-
some kind of an email is what he set
You're
up.
supposed to send an email, and
Right.
that was agreed by the school board,
If
correct?
he's honest about it. He was supposed to send me an email from a board meeting about going to the board meetings, and it never came.
Mhm.
Here's the whole thing about it. You all wanna put your stake in that swinging gate dishonesty.
I'm not putting my game anywhere.
I said you all, generally speaking.
Okay.
That
I
can
speak for the
go,
police department, Mr. Dollins.
pardon me?
I speak for the police department.
Okay.
That's why I'm here.
All right. So when I say you all, I mean city of Centralia.
But we don't control the school board.
I know that. You make judgment calls, is what you do.
No,
He does.
No? Well, yeah, every day I make judgment calls, you're correct. But usually the law is behind me. Okay?
What would you like for us to say not Mr. Bias or the chief?
You know,
of police to say?
last time I was in here, I alluded to the third time that I've gotten into grants, and it looked like misappropriation of funds is how members called it to me. I called it something different.
I mean, as far as keeping you from the school board meetings, how is it that we can help you?
Just a second, I'm gonna get to that. When I went and talked to another board group that I'm a member of also, it was, no, you can't talk to this individual, you need to talk to the whole board to find out what's going on.
And according to your letter, you're gonna be, impeded from being in the election because you can't go to the school board office to sign up.
Right, I'm not gonna email Darren Ford to go over and sign up for school board. Y'all get that? Here's the thing, everybody's been to a lot of these games, they've accused that I've disrupted the educational process. Where's it happen? Show me the film of it. There's lots of cameras.
But that's not our concern.
No,
We're
right,
not
it's your
supposed-
concern of making sure the police department's paid for so they can have their autonomy just to operate under their judgment decisions.
They're doing what they are supposed to do by law.
That's debatable. Thus,
Prove it.
ethics.
Hold on.
Within the.
Everything we do is within the bounds of the state law, federal law, and any ordinance the city does. If you've got proof otherwise, please prove it to me. Show it to
Do
me.
you have a civil claim against you right now, against former employees?
Yeah, but has there been a decision made on it?
No, but is that not the same thing I just said?
No. You said that we do
I said
everything by
we-
judgment call. No, everything we do is backed up by law.
By your interpretation of the law, yeah, that's right.
It usually is an interpretation of law. And the thing is, if I'm wrong, there's a prosecutor who tells me there's something
Well,
different.
you're
Or a
taking
judge.
this, you're taking this personal, but I'm saying that you've been in law. What I'm saying
No,
is,
no,
you're
that's what
listening
you
to the
said,
wrong
Mr.
person.
That's what you said.
What did I
Those
say?
words that just came out of your mouth.
Don't say what I said, what I say.
You said we do everything by judgment.
That is
Everything we
just
do,
part of your job. You have to judge what's going on. You make judgment calls.
there's someone that steps in beyond me for that, okay? I interpret the law. If someone breaks it, we take action. Be that writing a speeding ticket, be that arrested for stealing, be that drug violation. Doesn't matter to me. Okay? But the judge is the guy that holds that title and sits behind that bench once a month. Or sits down in the Boone County Courthouse. Okay? Judgment, yes. We have to have some judgment, yes. But the thing is, the final thing doesn't rest with us. The final decision doesn't rest with us.
Well,
You've been a part of the process, and you came out on the good end of it, correct?
which time are you talking about?
You had some issues with Tom Fair and the school board and everything else in the past, right?
I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay?
And see, that's another reason I'm up here.
You have, and you came out on the good end of that. And the system worked for you that time.
Right, so here's the deal. I'm just flat here saying, if I don't get to sign up for school board in the morning by their list, and it goes by who files, what time they go on the ballot, and it dictates accordingly who wins whatever, you're into a whole nother can of beans about election law and ethics.
That has nothing
Ethics
to do with
Commission.
us.
Well, it doesn't in the end result, but it's just what I'm getting back to. The way you all do your job affects that.
How does, you have to clarify for me, how is it you not being allowed to sign up for school board has something to do with the police department of the city of Centralia?
Who escorted me off the school grounds last
That
night?
doesn't do it, that has nothing to do with this.
If I go
You
to
can
sign
go-
up tomorrow, am I gonna get escorted off the school grounds when I go to sign up?
Can you go to
Because I
the
didn't
school board and sign up?
Do
Can
what?
you go to the school board office and sign up?
I didn't send there for an email, but that's how ridiculous this is.
I don't believe there's anything in that email about you coming to the school board office to sign up for the school board.
Anything on school property or within 500 feet, I believe is how their new sex offender disrupting the education policy that he sent me reads.
Mhm. I believe you can still probably go, if you want to sign up for school
Okay,
board.
I appreciate that very much. That's made this a very, very productive meeting for me. And I thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from citizens?
I got one, if I may.
If you could stand at the microphone,
Well,
announce your name.
I can stand right here if it's okay. My name is
You're
Henry
not
Washington.
on the camera, right?
Oh, let me get on up here then. Come talk to you. Yeah, my name is Henry Washington. I live at 818 South Street here in Centralia Resort. Been a resident of this fair city for a while now. And my question right now, and maybe we can go further with this next meeting, is that where was the justice in the situation of when my son had a dead coon put in his locker? Where was the justice when my second son had his locker urinated in? Hate crimes. Where are we at with that? Legally, with the law. I'll talk to you later.
Any other comments? hearing any, I'll close the session. Moving on to public safety. City prosecutor.
Nothing to report.
Police department activity report. I believe you have it in the packet. Any questions on the activity report? Moving on to police department other. Chief, do you have anything?
There might be some stuff that comes up under budget discussion.
Moving on to fire department. Activity report in your packet.
Repairs.
Kitchen's done.
About to finish it up.
Yeah, okay. In the fire department other. Emergency management director appointment. The letter of appointment is in the packet.
There is, I don't request you take action now, but this is a briefing for the regular board meeting. Our formal appointment of the emergency management director has been Zim Swartz. When her position was terminated at the city of Columbia, we did not take a parallel action because of the circumstances surrounding that, and not wanting to take sides in possible personnel decisions and stuff like that. Zim has now become the director of the 911 center in Springfield. Just take her out of town. She has a new job. In effect, that's a resignation in my mind, and therefore we could now, without any reflection on her, appoint Scott Olson, who is the acting emergency management director for both the city of Columbia and Boone County. And so I'm recommending that at the next regular board meeting, the mayor make such an appointment and then sign the letter that was included in the packet.
Or Scott Wilson. Anything for protective inspection? Do you have a letter?
Which, I don't know where Phil's, are you referring to the letter from JEM, or are you referring to the letter? Okay, yeah. The letter there is
It's at the very end of the packet.
Jackie
Oh, sorry.
Hoskins now.
I think it was like the last 2 pages is where I saw it.
Yeah, it's at the very end.
Gotcha, sorry.
Well, now's a good time to talk about it. It can also come up during budget discussions. The letter speaks for itself. She has, on occasion, had projects involved tearing down a house before she built a new one. And each of those occasions, she came forward to ask about the demolition incentive after the fund was declared for that fiscal year, so she never qualified. And she's suggesting in her letter, if I can paraphrase it, that we devote more money to that activity, and that we perhaps more closely control the timing on it, so that if we agree to a contract, that people have a very limited period of time to act on that. She was
existing, I think, 30 or 60 days. Some of the people have gotten their demolition done very quickly, others have taken longer because they've had to raise funds in order to comply with the dangerous structure notice. So we have not generated contracts that have very short deadlines, but that's the wish of the board. That can also be a future consideration. But in terms of the budget considerations, we have budgeted $7,500 for several years now, and in none of those cases did we end up signing a contract that included not only demolition but also an incentive to build a new house or duplex. It's just, we have such a contract. Merit produced them, we've just never used them, and when $7,500 can only do 5 houses for demolition, the money gets eaten up pretty quick.
Do you have any gut feel as to who's been waiting in the wings for?
At the moment, well, she may have another house involved. I mean, she was not able to take advantage in the 2 previous occasions she came by, but Linda Yeager is still hanging fire, and we'll have to do something before the end of the year, and we'll not be able to take advantage. And then somebody has purchased the old Better property on south of the
Cool Street.
Cool, thank you. And they will be tearing it down and then using that property, which is several lots, to construct multiple single-family units there. And they've made inquiries about that property.
Okay.
Question. Ms. Hoskins, you say it made inquired 2 times, but was unable to take advantage?
Both times when she came in, we had already had each year 5 people sign up for the contracts, and once they sign the contract, that's binding on us. And I've come back to the board and asked if they want to enter into any more, and in each case, they said no, that was the budget that would come out, and they're going to stay with that.
And did she hold up her projects because of the lack of city funding?
No.
According to her letter, I believe that she's stating that we give half, split the funds, half to homeowners with condemned property and half to contractors, builders, investors on also the first come. You know, instead of giving half to people that are not going to build, I think is what it says here.
But I
Split
believe,
the fund is what it says here.
but that's also in conjunction with creating new sources of funding for the way she lays it out. So she's talking there, the way I read the letter, and it is kind of complex,
Yeah.
that she's creating several new revenue sources for the city to divide up. Monies that she has found, I'm not exactly sure. I had this conversation maybe that she is talking gross revenues that she's finding,
That she's
and
creating.
she's spending net of everything she brings in. So some of the tax money and stuff isn't ours to spend. The building permits, the money we take in for that, the way I understand it, go to real inspections, stuff that has to be done. So that's not exactly free money that we can pass back out, pass through. So I guess I couldn't follow very much of the premise. And I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but she isn't the first person that's approached me in the last 6 months about trying to find money in the city and encourage building and contractors to build in Centralia. I thought we'd been getting along great, but it looks to me like there might be some kind of groundswell for trying to find more money to sweeten the pot within the city coffers.
Sir.
I would point out that she is correct, that this does create tax money, when people build new buildings. However, it doesn't create tax money that the city gets to take very much of advantage of. The school board gets the bulk of that money. We get a very small percentage of that. The library gets any of that?
If it's in a.
Yeah, the library district gets, the Daniel Boone Library District gets a portion of it. So it's not coming to the city as, we don't have $3,000 of net gain, we have a very small net gain, it takes much, much longer than that. So that part of the argument is incorrect in that she is thinking that that money is coming to the city, and it does not come to the city. A portion of it does, but a very small portion of it.
She also states in here that once she built the house at Maple Street, that since then, she has paid utilities of $9,345 instead of just being an empty lot. I think is what she means. It is utilities that have been paid because there is a new complex there.
But she speaks to it as if that is all net to the city.
Mhm.
It costs the city quite a bit of money to provide $9,000 worth of services to her,
Yeah, oh yeah.
or to her renters, however you want to phrase it.
The one thing that she does speak about that I don't necessarily disagree with is that, maybe there should be a shorter timetable on some of these, and people shouldn't be allowed to string these out, sign up at the first of the year and tear the house down in the summer. There should be maybe a fairly short trigger on these of 60, 90 days, something like that.
I would agree with that as well.
I would agree with that too.
Do you have anything more on protection inspection?
Yes, we do. Just a second, let me catch up with notes.
Sorry.
Okay, for the record, the public hearing was held for the notice of dangerous structure with Mr. Del Rosa in the Narragansett building. No decision has been rendered yet. Last week I met with Mr. Davis about the condition of the building at the corner of Railroad Street and Allen, which I had sent a new notice to and included the engineer's report that you had looked at last month. Gave him 30 days. He was asking more specifics about what the city wanted and whether if he was able to come up with a plan, he might get an extension. I said I needed to see a specific plan. He's also looking at continuing to try to sell the building, and I believe he had an appointment made with somebody, I think the adjacent property owner, to discuss that, and I have not heard back from him, but at least he's taking some positive action about it. Lastly, you had asked what the costs were so far on 105 North Allen, and I put a summary in the agenda packet. It was pointed out to me that might be somewhat misleading. The numbers I have here come from looking back over our financial records for actual cash expenditures. Site Right LLC is Mr. Nelson, whom we assumed ownership from back when he was struggling to do something with the building. I believe 2,000 somehow equaled the amount of the fine he got from the municipal court for not doing anything about the building. Part of the arrangement that the board came up with, and then title expenses and unpaid taxes and the initial engineering report from Kirby Hansen Henshaw. Since then, we've also spent almost $5,000 just in roll-off containers of material to,
It's on the last page of your packet.
It's very last page.
all right. We did take materials to the landfill, and we've spent to date $52,659.37 to Five Oaks. So cash outlay so far has been just a little short of 63,000. We have also done work in-house, city equipment and city manpower, and don't have an exact amount of that. It's not accounted for specifically in all respects, but my best records show that we probably spent in excess of $4,000 of city labor and equipment time. That's not cash outlay, but it is lost opportunity costs. They could have been doing something else. And we still have outstanding costs for the work that Five Oaks is doing right now, which is a couple thousand, and the cost of the paint that we will put on the walls when we're done.
And that was, we already passed that,
Yeah, you've agreed to.
How much was the paint?
that was 3.
Do you know, well,
No, I do not. I'd have to look at the minutes.
3,000.
I didn't know that we were worried quite as much about the exact amount as to the general magnitude of it. And while I underestimated some of the expenses, it was in the ballpark at least.
Do you have any other under?
No.
We've got the general government and finance, economic development.
Yes, there is a letter in the packet from Cruddy, and we have several representatives of our Cruddy board here this evening, and welcome, I'm glad you're here. Did you want me to read the letter?
Yeah, please.
Sure. To Centralia City Board of Aldermen, dated December 7, 2012. As you know, Centralia Regional Economic Development, Inc., CREDI, was formed several years ago at the mayor's direction and encouragement. Since that time, the CREDI group has worked closely with the EEZ committee and collaborated with the Centralia Chamber of Commerce to establish the Shop Local campaign, Purchase with a Purpose. We have also promoted a new Centralia map, host the Live Centralia tours for potential new residents, as well as sponsoring the business showcase and other educational seminars for small business owners. We believe it is time to take credit to the next level. Please consider this letter as our official request to solicit funding from the city of Centralia. We understand that the city currently subsidizes the Chamber of Commerce, and we are not asking that our request take priority over theirs. We are both deserving organizations with a common goal: the betterment of our community and the northern Boone County region. Our short-term goals for the funds would be to secure office space for CREDI, hire a part-time director who would be responsible for creating fundraisers and perhaps writing grants. We would also like to maintain an advanced web presence and collaborate with the MU Extension Office and READY to develop a marketing piece promoting the Centralia region to anyone looking to establish a new business or relocate an existing one. We know this will not be an overnight process, but CREDI strongly feels that doing nothing means that nothing gets done. We will provide detailed accounting and up-to-date presentations to the City Council on a regular basis. Our goals will not happen overnight, but we are a determined group that meets on a regular basis and have Centralia and the surrounding area's best interests in mind. Thank you for your consideration, and if you require additional information about our goals, please let CREDI know. And it's signed by the CREDI Board of Directors. Now, I understand at least one of the aldermen approached someone on the CREDI board and requested that this letter not be submitted. As a board member of CREDI and as part of the Board of Aldermen, I am very offended by that. that request should not have been made. This group is as deserving of the opportunity to request funding and be considered by the board for those funds.
Okay.
And I do know that if anyone has questions, we have Barry Stevens, the president, Lori Myers, the treasurer, Don Rogers, vice president, as well as 2 other board members present this evening, and they'd be happy to talk with anybody who has questions.
There is a misstatement in the letter. The city does not subsidize the chamber, the city pays the chamber for services rendered, and that's the only way that money can be given to a private organization. So, if Credit gets money, it will be for services that they render also. That's the way it has to be by state law.
So you said we give money to chamber for all the events that the chamber does?
We give some money to the chamber, we don't subsidize the chamber. The chamber has most of their own funding.
And the services paid was for, some work as far as economic development type activities and stuff.
There is a contract for services with the chamber that lists various things that it's obliged to do, working on economic development in terms of promoting business, promoting tourism, promoting events such as Anchor Festival and things of that nature. And the city then pays for those services up to $6,000, provided they raise commensurate equal amounts. That's sort of a carryover when they were very poorly funded, and they have no trouble making the match now. So it's always, for the last 10 or 15 years, it's been either $5,000 or $6,000 without fail, and they.
So you're saying there's several performance metrics that they need?
Basically, they have to raise money and they have to do the job.
Okay.
And that contract, I believe, is up for renewal for the coming fiscal year.
Okay.
So what do we give them for like the parade and stuff? Do we give them money for the parade?
We do not distinguish on individual events. We have the contract for a total of $6,000 for those services.
Is that every 2 years?
And, yeah, well, it's $6,000 per year under a 2-year contract. So, Alderman Gorman is correct. If we wish to advance the cause of credit, we would need to have a similar sort of contract. They can use the chamber contract as a good template to provide economic development service and be somewhat specific about what you would be doing and what sort of goals you would want to accomplish during the time period of the contract. It could be 1 year, 2 year. Your letter doesn't list a specific amount. You have a specific dollar amount request.
Not per se, but we feel that could be discussed at some point in time.
Now's a good time because I'm starting to formulate the first draft of the letter on budget, and if I don't have a ballpark for that, then mine sort of gets earmarked for other things and sort of go back and peel it off.
Can I approach the microphone? My name's Barry Stevens. I was a Centralia resident for about 20 years, and now I'm an Audrain County resident north of town. So, but not because I didn't like Centralia, we just found our green place out there. So that's why I'm out of town now. But as a member of Credit, we are doing planning sessions once a year. We just had one in November, and it's been determined through this past year that to be able to really advance the organization and really start doing the meat and potatoes of economic development, we need funding. None of us really on the board are professional fundraisers, and it takes somebody that knows how to do that. We felt like that was kind of a missing link. So a year ago, we started looking for an intern through the University of Missouri. Reddy was helping us with that, put us in contact with several people. So that opportunity has now happened. We have an intern that's starting the spring semester, and we are going to give that intern 2 tasks. One task will be to develop a fundraising program, our program to establish funding for credit that will last past the intern, because we realize even though the intern could come back for another semester, it's highly unlikely. We would want the program to remain in effect. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to develop a marketing plan and a marketing strategy. And as you know, those things can be rather complicated, but that is where, along with this intern, the community development specialist from the from the extension service at MU can help us put together this marketing plan. And one of the first things we need to do is develop a community profile. And I know there's some things on the city site and there's some things on the chamber site, but they're rather vague and kind of one-liner lists. We're talking about pretty in-depth detail. So we want a business that's out of town, when they're looking at Centralia, we want to be able to have a more or less kind of a one-stop shop where they can go in and they can look at the city resources, they can look at the properties, they can do all these things, and have somebody that they can actually call on the phone and ask questions to and hopefully get answers, or at least know where to get those answers. So that's the 2 things that we want to do with our intern that's coming, and to be able to then go to the next level is a part-time director. So we're looking at, like the letter says, with office space and all the expenses that come with it. So one of the things that we're looking at is trying to acquire enough funding so that when this director comes, they don't have to worry about getting paid. They know they're going to get paid for maybe at least a 2-year plan for that funding. So, you know, I don't want to say the sky's the limit, because I know it's not, but to actually put a number on it, you know, it could be 10,000, it could be 5,000. We're not really. It's going to take more than that. You know, we're also we'll be going to the county government, soliciting the same thing from them, and I'm sure it'll be a similar service contract agreement. And then we'll go to utilities and some other things to try to get that funding. We realize economic times such as they are, there's only so much money to go around. We might have to scale back on some of our goals. We'd rather have goals set a little bit farther out up there than rather setting them too low. And if we have to scale back a little bit, then we can do that. So I guess, you know, we've never really talked about a number, and we know it's going to take, you know, for instance, the Boone County office building is kind of sort of available for use. If we did take that over, if the county government was to give that up, the Boone County Hospital actually owns that building. For example, the utilities in that building, just the utilities are about $5,000. So
Is that a year?
A year, approximately. You know, it depends on a lot of factors.
Clarification, the whole building or just for the?
No, just that office space, just that east side of that structure. So I guess, you know, I mean, this is kind of, you know, I don't want to say it's like horse trading or whatever, but I'd be willing to start the bidding at $10,000.
Sir, before you sit down.
Yes, sure.
Just for my own benefit, I'm trying to get my head around the mission statement, the charter and everything from Credit versus the Chamber. And I know Chamber does development type activities as well, so I'm trying to understand the difference between the 2 organizations, economic development, economic development. It almost sounds like we're sitting 2 organizations down with the same mandate almost. And I mean, I'm not saying there isn't a reason, but help me understand what is there a niche that you're providing, or separate from what the Chamber does? I'm just trying to understand that.
Okay. Well, my understanding is that in the beginning, the organization was formed to focus on new businesses, either brand new businesses or relocated businesses. And then once the business was established, that's when the chamber takes over, and then the business hopefully would become a chamber member as well.
Sure.
Or an accredited or not accredited member. I mean, it's totally voluntary, obviously. But at that point in time, they would become a chamber member and then work with the chamber on remaining established and all the benefits and everything that comes with the chamber. So Credit would be focusing on bringing business in, and the chamber would be focusing on being able to sustain those businesses.
Right. Well, that's not exactly true. The chamber has worked with businesses, a lot of the businesses, they've worked with Ready in the past on trying to get new businesses in here, so to say that the chamber only takes over at that point is.
Well, I didn't say that was only, I just said that's what the chamber mainly focuses on.
That's not quite true. I mean, the chamber has traditionally done that in this town.
Well, I guess we've got 4 or 5 other people here that would probably say that that's maybe a stretch.
Well, I'm well aware of what the chamber does, having share an office with them, and I can tell you that there's not too many people who probably know as much about what the chamber does as what I do, and I know what I see.
I accept that.
You say in here in your portion that you're gonna, try to get some grants, exactly what, I'm very interested in getting grants for this town.
They're economic development grants.
Yeah, are they only for businesses to start up, is that what your grants are for? Or are they for the businesses that are already established and getting them help? Or maybe one that's coming in that's, say they buy one of our buildings that are empty.
He's looking for,
I'm asking say that someone comes in and buys one of the empty buildings downtown and it's kind of dilapidated and it needs some help, is there a grant that you could get for them to help them start a business in that building, to help them fix that up, to start a business in that?
What you stated is exactly the problem. The area of grants is so complex and comprehensive that it takes a person a lot of time and effort to be able to find the grants and then establish whether that particular instance qualifies for that grant. And that's one thing that the credit director would do, and that's kind of what we mean by the grant writing.
A good professional grant writer to write grants for specific businesses and areas.
Also, the extension service will also help as far as the specific grant writing, but the step before that is just being able to find the grant.
Just to point them in the right direction.
Yes.
If they need that direction.
And as we know, with state government and their budget, the grants have dried up a lot. I mean, there's not as much available and as many available as there had been 5 or even 7 years ago.
Yeah. Well, some of the government grants are still up to what, $70 billion?
Yeah.
Is that what they were?
Well, a lot of grants also have a matching funds requirement,
Yeah.
which is kind of a hurdle that a lot of people can't jump.
But if you're maybe if you're starting a business, you should be.
Right.
Match some of that.
Yes, first to address Dawn's statement about the word subsidy or subsidize. I did not write this letter, I'm reading the letter. So you may want to address the person who wrote the letter and clarify that fact with them. And then second, I firmly believe in what the credit board is doing. I have been an appointed member since April. I take pride in that appointment. And I try to be a good member of the board and try to have some good insight. And it was at my suggestion that they did not include funds in this. This is just the first step in letting it be known that yes, we would like to have this consideration.
Well, I'm not casting dispersions myself on any of it. What I do think though is that there needs to be clear, we're doing the getting the businesses in, getting them established, helping them, and then, I mean, understanding where the line is, because what I think is not appropriate is a blurring of responsibilities, where it's hard to tell who's responsible for what, and do I go to credit for this, or do I go to chamber for this? Those types of things I don't think we should be, go ahead, sorry.
Well, that's okay. And then the other point I wanted to bring up is how can we know what the chamber is doing if we don't get reports from the chamber or hear what the chamber is doing?
That's a good point right there.
And since I have been sitting in this seat as an alderman, I've not ever seen an audit from the chamber on what they do with their funding, how the money comes in, what it's spent on. And since the city is required to have an audit done every year, and since this is board that we are to be getting services for, I would like to see an audit.
Sorry, go ahead.
Any other questions or?
I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Sir.
It's just an example of something that came across, so.
All right.
The matter of the Ferris referred to, $70 million or whatever, the first round of stimulus, now, almost 4 years ago, the amount of money that went to Missouri stayed with Missouri. Very little of it trickled down to any sort of grants to small communities. It went into projects the state had already identified, so if there's a future round, probably not very much of that's going to be made available to smaller communities either. The mayor has been looking at a software called eCivis, which is basically a grant finding piece of software. I've gone over it and looked at it. It's pretty expensive, but I looked at it, had in use in Fulton. In fact, I sit down with the lady who is their grants person and someone economic development director, and we researched, and the number of grants that would apply to communities our size that were true grants was very, very small. Most of what's available is in two categories. It requires a very large match under very strict conditions. Most grants are targeted for very limited objectives on the part of the giver, either federal, state governments, or private foundations. More often than not, the federal money and some state money from DED is made available in terms of loans. That's where the stimulus money that was to go to water and sewer systems went to. It basically went into the revolving funds to be made available as loans. Now, that's probably more important when interest rates are 7 and 8 and 9%. Right now, they're so small that the loan money is not, the interest on it is not a great consideration. But you got to qualify for it. You have to have the expectation of repaying it, just as somebody getting a mortgage would have to have. And that's not an attractive proposition for most people. This situation that Alderman Sanders cited about somebody new coming in and buying a substandard building and wanting to fix it up might go farther than somebody who owns a building being allowed to become dilapidated, trying to find money to fix it up. But the principal sources of money from governments right now, community development block grants and farm home, rural development money. Rural development, I've provided a list to the mayor, most of that's grant, loan money. Very little is grant money. And what there is money that the city would have to be sponsoring and administrating to in most instances. Community development block grants are competitive. We tried to get block grant money for rehabbing 105 and or demolishing it, and we did not qualify. For whatever reason that year, we did not have sufficient score strength compared to other people who wanted the money to come close. Some cities are entitlement cities. If you're big enough, like Mexico is, you get some no matter what, just as a matter of what you historically got before they started making changes in the program. But Centralia is not big enough to qualify as an entitlement city. We have to compete against other people. So, in general, grants are very hard to find. Loans are somewhat more easy. I am not aware of anything that would fund an economic development director as a position, per se.
Well, maybe not as a position, I'm just talking about as them, once they got their positions, What I'm talking about is if we give them $10,000 this year, and they spend part of their $10,000 paying the grant writer $3,000, what I don't know what they are, $2,000. Well, I'm asking them what their specific criteria would be for saying, hey, are you just gonna give this person the direction, or are you gonna try to get that person the grant?
As far as the director goes, the grant writing would be a small portion of their total. This community profile is huge, and once you start down that path, then it has to be constantly updated. And there's nothing worse than going to a place to get information and it'll be wrong or inaccurate or missing. And then what the director would also do is build relationships with the city government, the county government, those people involved in economic development, those organizations, and also then what those organizations have to offer as far as government. And then READY, the Moberly Group, Economic Group, Mexico Group, and then we also have Sturgeon and Hallsville, who we would include in the region, hence why we call it regional. But Hallsville's struggling, so is Sturgeon. Now, does that help Centralia? You could argue that back and forth, I guess. But we would certainly be okay with helping them do some things to get some of their stuff established that they would need. So it's a thing of communities working together to be able to try to do that. But the grant writing, for instance, we've got a business, my business works with another business in Quincy, and they have a very vibrant historical downtown district. Quincy's a very old city, and if you've ever been there, the architecture, some of the buildings are trying to preserve all that. And this guy's an old foundry guy, and they'll take different facades down and they'll remake those and recast them so they can preserve that look. And they developed a mobile app, and they found a grant. What they did was they hired a guy, call him staff, call him director, whatever, but he went after this because they wanted this mobile app for people to come to Quincy, and they could they could show them the restaurants, show them all the historical sites, all the tours of all the buildings, and a historical perspective about that. And they did that all with a grant. Now, was it matching? I don't know, probably was. I mean, there's nothing really for free anymore. But so that's just one little example. Would something like that work for Centralia? Probably not. But something like that could benefit. One of the things that came up in one of our credit meetings was that I didn't realize it, but you have to submit your locations to Garmin. You have to submit to Google. And is anybody in the community doing that? So if you say Donnie's rental business out here on Highway 22, if you got somebody passing through town and they need something, all they got to do is put it in their Garmin and do a search. And if he's put his business in there, it's going to show up. So that one little thing like that, which doesn't cost any money, but somebody has to be available to do the research and be able to input that kind of stuff in. So that's just a really small piece of this whole great big puzzle we're looking at. That's just another aspect.
That's true. That's
Absolutely.
My name is Jeff Grimes. I live at 304 East Barnes here in town, and for the purposes of today's discussion, I am the Chamber's appointed representative to CREDI. This is just to address some of the concerns that Mr. Wilkins may have had about the relationship between the two organizations. I serve at the Chamber's behest on the CREDI board. Okay. And I will say that in the CREDI board discussions, it has been our consensus, I believe, that in no way do we want to take any funds away from the Chamber of Commerce. If the Chamber of Commerce is set to get 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, whatever it is next year, we want them to do that, because without the Chamber of Commerce and without the great things that they do in this community, then it's not a place that many of us would want to live without a lot of great things that the Chamber does. So, first of all, I want to say that in no way is this attempting to be an either-or situation. I know Barry brought that up, but I want to emphasize the fact that we are strongly committed to a strong Chamber of Commerce. My business is a member of both organizations and will continue to be so, because I think it's very important that we have that. That said, the people in this group and the other people that are a part of this organization have a strong commitment to seeing our community grow stronger and vibrant, and in particular in the areas of industrial recruitment, business recruitment. And we know we're not gonna get another chance, but we might be able to get a 5 or 10 or 20 or 40 employee business. That's what we're shooting at. This is a concerted effort to do that sort of thing. We've been working with other groups. We're in 2 cooperative projects with the Chamber of Commerce right now. The MAP project, which I guess we finished, about 6 months ago, and the Purchase with Purpose program, which is sort of a joint project that I guess eventually is going to be sort of turned over to the Chamber in the future. I don't know what the timetable is on that or anything, but the groups are working together. Yeah, there's some gnashing of teeth and some clawing, but in my business, if you don't let stuff roll off your back, you're never going to get anything done, because somebody's always mad at us, and just like you folks as politicians, there's somebody always mad at you. I know how that is, because of something in my paper that they're mad at you about. But that said, you know, we're working through these things, and both groups can coexist. Both groups can have clearly defined purposes. And if there were any contract made with Credit, we would ask that you said that we did A, B, C, and D, and then you would have reports from us at those times if we did that. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to ask them. But I just wanted to state that really there is a cooperative spirit to a certain extent.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the fact that they have identified an intern with 2 specific projects makes at least the first contract somewhat easy, in that they've already created what they would offer as a deliverable
Sure.
on that contract. It wouldn't have to be in a broad, expansive one. The chamber contract is very broad. This one could be quite specific and still achieve.
Specific to help get them going.
Right.
They identified developing a fundraising program for ongoing support of their projects,
Right.
and also a community profile, which I think both of those sound.
Yeah. There is a community profile was done to submit to the Department of Economic Development. We did it in-house, but it is a 3 or 4 page document, so admittedly it's very spare.
And that was done when?
The last time it was updated was probably 7 or 8 years ago.
So.
Not a lot has changed, but it could be, in fact, updated, certainly at least
Updated
include
and
population
expanded.
numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you got a person working on it, of course, that person will probably be back down at the front office asking for data, because they're not going to be familiar with the community. But yeah, organizing is half the battle.
I'm for the 10,000 myself.
I'm sorry.
I'm for the 10,000. I mean, if they're gonna try their hardest to bring jobs to town, business to town, we're gonna make money off of it. I mean, the chamber's been around for years. Are they gonna go out and try as hard as they can to get jobs like these people are? I haven't seen it.
Well, the only thing that I ask is, you know, because kind of spur of the moment, you throw out a figure type thing. I wanted a little more, go back, talk about it, come with an actual, here's what this money is for type notion, rather than a, okay, we want $10,000. I mean, you know, a little bit more of a structure behind what the request is, rather than just throw out a number type thing.
And I'll be honest with you, that's why we wanted the letter somewhat vague, because
Spur of the moment too, though.
we wanted the questions to come so that then we could be specific and give you exactly what you're asking for. And basically what you're asking for is a budget, and we can put that together.
Yeah, and my questions earlier were just purely that I didn't want a blurring of what we're asking the chamber to do and what we're asking for you guys to do. And I just want that to be clearly defined and to understand that we're not marching 2 organizations down the same path and trying to pay for both. That's my biggest concern.
Well, actually, they're all 3 going in the same path and trying to, you know, according to your letter, we're all trying to get in the same direction with the EDC, Credit, and the chamber are all working in the same direction as far as making the city better, so making the city.
It's generalities, I agree with that.
In a general form, we're all trying to work at the same goal, just like
I hope
sometimes
we do.
are.
I hope we do.
And we all have the same goal, is to make the city better. Sometimes we don't agree on how to do it, but we do, that's
Right.
what everybody's goal here is.
And that's why we have a member of the chamber on our board,
Yeah.
so that that communication goes back and forth, and we aren't trampling on each other, or we aren't trying to do the same thing, not knowing the other one.
And initially, when, I put the credit together, I think Barry said it pretty well. You know, I wanted credit to bring and attract the businesses to Centralia and have the chamber kind of mold and foster that relationship between the city and the chamber,
Perfect.
the community and the business.
And I believe the chamber goes out and attracts people to come to the businesses, not businesses to come to the town, right? Is that kind of where I'm, they attract the people.
Historically, they've done both.
Yeah.
You know, when they were first developing a more robust mission, they were heavily into economic development. And the first real chamber director, Mr. Swipe, was going to various training sessions put on by the state. He eventually left to become a full-time economic development director with some other cities. But that mission carried over with the chamber. It's hard to do part-time. It's hard to do without, sometimes you have to really have desperate straits in order to make yourself attractive to some sorts of businesses. We get lots of numerous notices from the state and through Ready, asking, do you have a building with so many thousand square feet and ceilings with a crane and, you know, lots of things that we could take advantage of if we had one. We don't really have a lot of vacant industrial buildings. We have probably just one that really suits the bill, and we keep pushing, but if it doesn't make a match, then all the salesmanship in the world.
We have one out, you know, maybe not makes the exact match, but I believe the old Dollar General. That's in the
It's
industrial.
also, it is sound industrial, it's,
Dairy Queen, is that the old Dairy Queen?
the property is zone B2.
B2, okay.
The
Not industrial.
business is not,
Well, we could make it industrial.
It's probably not a desirable one to make industrial,
Why do you say that, Don?
because it's on the highway, it's more suited to business than it is to industry.
22 Drive,
It-
or
it's-
the old Dollar General's on the highway, it's industrial.
Yeah, it's been industrial.
Yes, it has.
So what's the difference between that and
history.
Dairy Queen?
The one has been there forever that way. I'm not even sure when it was rezoned that way.
It was, when zoning was first created, because it had a history as being a sawmill.
So,
But we have adequate property zone industrial. The Dairy Queen building doesn't lend itself to most of the industrial opportunities I would imagine.
Well, the
Maybe
building
there's some
itself is
retail.
A lot
Yes,
more.
It's one
The
acre.
building itself is kind
it's
of
1 acre.
pretty much.
And the state doesn't pass along very many things that need 1 acre. That's sort of, we have to do that on our own. But the Sal Saloon building has been shopped. It's got limited application. It's not gonna become a distribution center, it's not gonna become a call center in all likelihood. That's the kind of stuff we get. And most businesses are looking for a place they can move in real fast right now.
It'd be a recycling.
And the kind of business that would be looking for us. And they'd also like to be closer to the interstate. We're getting more than a little far afield, but we have, Mr. Waker's property and others, I mean, we have 100 acres of industrially zoned property, and that's not a concern. It's getting the right match for the right customer at the right time.
now, if you want to put a spec building up, the odds of getting somebody to fill it better.
But not great.
It costs a lot of money to put a spec building up, and you have no guarantees of how soon anybody would be willing to come in and do something. So there's a lot of expenses with it.
Is there anything more on economic development we'd like to talk about?
When are you guys gonna have the proposal?
The reason Jenny wasn't at the last board meeting is because when I did a cut and paste job, I didn't put a specific target of having a report from the chamber, and so she took that she was not intending to be at that agenda, and that was not my intent, and we clarified that, so she should be at next week's meeting, although they're not having a chamber meeting this month, so mostly she'll be giving an after report on Christmas activities and that sort of thing, because most of those will be done by the time she comes to report.
Okay.
Mr. Wilkins,
Yes, sir.
is there any way you can give us a time frame for us to give you the information you've asked for and for us to know what your decision will be as a board?
Well, this meets once a month. We have it for next month's discussion.
What about budgeting? How far along are we on the budget by next month?
By next month, we'll be a little farther along.
What's your how fast can you have something like that?
We'll be closer than we've ever been.
I have a
How
very-
fast can you have something like that done?
Well, then we'll be,
A couple of weeks?
If it's important enough, we can do it.
So the first meeting of the next month?
on the utilities meeting,
Public Works,
public works, utilities.
Yeah, that'll be on the 14th.
If you can do it by the general government meeting. Because you're
Yeah,
not gonna have stuff around the hall.
it would be the second Monday.
The first Monday of January?
Well,
That would be the
Actually,
14th.
the Public Works Utilities is the first Monday.
Exactly, that's why this is the second.
Yeah.
If it was done ahead of time and could be maybe sent around
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, there's nothing stopping.
so that we could have questions beforehand,
Well,
the proposal.
If you go to Heather.
sure.
They can distribute it to all of us.
I have to go by Johnny Rogers' office because he has 2 news channel posts that belong to the city. Whoever collected the signs, I think Glenn Brown from Pancake Day, said he delivered the signs to your office. So the posts have to come back and go back to the street shop. When I pick those up, I will bring by a copy of the chamber contract, so you have.
We've already got it.
Oh, we do.
You already got it to me, and everybody's got an email
Okay,
copy.
well, I mean, you don't have to copy it, but it gives you an idea of the sort of
Well, is there a
boxes
budget-
you gotta check.
Is there a budget that goes with that contract? Does the chamber have do they give a budget that goes with the contract as well?
They show us what the annual budget is, and they've been submitting the budget they prepare for the chamber board.
So we'll have an agenda item on the 14th to discuss it, but if you get it to us,
A
it'll
week.
be distributed.
Week prior would be okay?
That, I think that'd be fine.
Yeah.
The budget is not really locked down until it's adopted in March.
No, we're talking about their,
But but January, if they want to have some sort of priority, or if you're going to talk in terms of trade-offs against other things that we'll talk about later on in the meeting, then the sooner they have an amount in this firm objective, the more likely you would be to say, yes, that's more important than something else and needs to be included in the budget.
the sooner the better.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Under Park Board, we have a motion in our packet from the meeting, 2 minutes.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Get something to
It'd be rude awakening. Any specific one for?
No, minutes, I have not, they had not yet decided last time I talked to them whether they would have these.
They opted out of not purchasing those doors, is that correct?
That's correct. They, I believe we're going to contact, the coalition and ask them for advice on the priorities.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah.
Cemetery report. Didn't see anything.
Nothing,
Okay. Tree board,
nothing.
library board.
Well, there's not a lot. We try to ask them to come once a year, or if they're making an application for Tree City USA grant, they usually need an endorsement. But otherwise, they're sort of a functioning thing. I mean, they give advice on whether to take down the tree or not.
Okay. Library board,
They meet tomorrow evening.
November financial statements.
You should have that in your packet. Getting closer to cleaning up things. There's still a few zero level activities I'd like to be able to eliminate and get rid of the garbage, but it's cleaner. And we'll work on making the balance sheet a little bit more segmented so you can see what part goes to the general fund and what part goes to special revenue funds and that sort of stuff. There's not really a lot of surprise in here. I can give you overviews of revenues and expenditures when I deal with real preliminary budget numbers, but I don't have anything on financial statements. If you have questions, bring them to me and I'll answer them for everybody next meeting.
Okay. We have bills over $1,250. Any questions on that?
What's a Cargill overtime? Overpay?
I asked that same question,
That's a big mistake.
and the, when the computer program, the spreadsheet, it was adding, one of the columns was the wrong column it was adding, so it was multiplying the wrong numbers. And every month it was getting higher and higher and higher, and Phyllis noticed that and double checked the numbers, figured out where the mistake was, and brought it to Lynn's attention.
Cargill is a special case. They have a lift station that carries their water in a small main underneath the railroad tracks and the highway to deliver to our sewage main. And the way we measure that amount of water is different than everybody else because it's measured specifically to sewage water rather than water consumption. We don't supply water to them. And so, first of all, for some time we were measuring the number of truckloads of water they were delivering to the plant to be treated. We finally got this other system in and we were measuring it, but as he said, the formula that was in the computer to make the calculations kept bumping up and adding stuff it wasn't supposed to. And it became noticeable, and we overbilled them by that amount. And because
It
it
was
was not,
over a period of time, it wasn't all just in
it
one
was
month.
about a year. And because it was that way from day one, they didn't have any basis for comparison, and they never questioned it. But if you overbill by $1,000 a month for 10 months, it gets to be a major amount. We've corrected the software mistake and we gave them a rebate, which is only fair.
Yeah.
That's only fair. When did they get the rebate?
Right before Christmas.
December 17th.
My point being,
Yeah.
we need to tell the credit people to hoof it down to Cargill and ask for a grant. Because that money coming into a big corporation like, and just mess up the books and we can fix
This is more of a
that.
headache. This is more of a headache, really.
That's right, it's a rounding error for them, and they ought to
We have a
consider
credit
granting it.
number on our book.
I know some other large, Mr. Angel, I know some other large corporations, and they do track it, and they catch it a lot faster because they have a historical comparison to make, and Cargill didn't.
So, what's the problem with it?
Exactly, yeah.
Fair's fair.
I'm not saying that we don't pay. I'm saying we get our people down there and apply for the grant.
It's an opportunity.
There you go, that's all I'm saying.
Anything else on bills
No,
over
the answer's
1,000?
no, if no.
There you go.
Sir?
So what is a KUB what's the KUB 2008?
Oh, underground power and equipment.
Kubota.
2008.
That's repairs. Should be parts and equipment to repair the excavator.
It's the Kubota, the trencher,
Truck, mini truck.
mini tractor.
Manager.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's parts and labor for repairing the bucket bushings on the excavator.
Thank you.
Did you say parts and labor?
Yes.
I did notice that we went over, is this saying we went over our budget on the roof by $1,000? Materials, $3,114.05, extra cost $4,254.55.
Well, the roof was never part of the budget because it was something that arose during the.
I just didn't know, I seen this amount here and then I seen the amount up here.
The materials was 31,1405,
Yeah,
and the total with the labor
Was
I think
5,000.
that was,
the remainder of that bill, there's more materials spread over a wide variety of departments that come from lacrosse. In any given month, we buy quite a few things from lacrosse.
Yeah, but this was police department roof, but in it, I just didn't know what the difference was.
Okay, well, the
That
amount,
was labor,
so the labor was 1,900,
okay.
and the parts, and I believe that's all with the parts. I mean, there's nothing else still hanging out there. That was the total
So-
invoice from Denny that was put into a larger check for 4,200, but the amount for the parts, shingles, all that was the 3,114.05 cents.
And we got the water department truck?
We
Oh,
did,
we just paid for it?
we did.
We did, okay.
Any other questions on bills over 1,200?
What we have done in the police car?
It was the, what I tell you,
Brake
brake controller computer.
control,
Actually, there's two different things in there. One of them is, I believe, an alternator, the other one, there's two different bills that
made it on this list.
yeah,
It's just the general.
brake control computer, and then I think the,
Oh, no, I just got one number,
1325.
132596.
and that was
the two
over about a
departments.
3-day period.
That
So
is
it
replace
was-
fuel
it was-
pump.
Shouldn't have made it on this list at all. Those are three separate bills, all way under $1,200. They just came together and someone put it on this bill. I'm not accusing them, I'm just telling you. I watch that thing like a hawk. Don't think I don't for 1 second.
Okay, just ask.
No, it's a,
And I just told you.
Yeah.
I mean, are we having problems with cop cars? Are they going to shop?
First of all, cop is
a derogatory term.
a derogatory term. We
All right,
don't say that.
police
We
officer.
certainly won't say it behind this council table, ever. Cop means copper, what used to be used in badges, 2. Let's be clear. Short answer is, no. We're stretching out our budget the best we can, as Lynn has asked me to do. And with respect to police cars. Any questions specific to that?
Thanks. Everybody ready for anyone next year, maybe?
I will get to that in a second.
We're under
Made a
negotiation.
proposal to me.
We're under negotiation.
Tracking.
We've got something working.
Okay.
Other joint government, April elections.
You will have,
Did we pass the accounts payable over
We
1250?
done
Well,
that this
that's
week.
it. Next week.
Okay.
That's just for information. Show you where we're at so far this week.
case you had a question I was not able to answer on the spur of the moment, I can have time to get it for you.
April elections.
You have to pass an ordinance calling for the April elections. We do that traditionally at the December meeting, and an ordinance has been prepared and it will be on the agenda.
For next week, okay.
And you've surely noticed that the vacant positions have already been advertised, and technically the sign-up will start tomorrow.
Other further preliminary budget discussions.
Okay. Real preliminary, because there's 4 months to go.
Yeah.
And there are lots of things that are really rough estimates that could get better, on the other hand, they could get worse. For instance, we don't know what kind of winter it's gonna be in terms of snow removal. That could run the gamut from something like it's $8,000 or $9,000 up to something in recent years we've spent $50,000 on equipment use and materials, and it's way too early to know. I could be optimistic, but we budget for an average year.
30 is what your budget is, that was it?
Uh,
I believe it was 30 something, maybe 30 or 35.
Ask a specific question, you have it in hand.
I'm sorry.
No, you should be sorry, but when you ask and I have it right here, then I should be able to answer. We budgeted $30,335, which is an average, but just 2 years ago, we spent 51.
51, yeah.
So, you
So
know,
that raises the average.
Then would you let me know what kind of winter we're going to have? Okay, I'll give you a couple seconds.
The Johnny Carson.
it's supposed to be below average
Snowfall.
snowfall, if that means anything.
And above average temperature.
Well, there you have it.
But unfortunately, with wide swings and frequent variations in temperature,
Exactly.
as I've explained before, it's not good for us.
I didn't get that out of my exhibit.
You didn't? What did you get?
I got a spoon.
That's what I get.
Deep snow.
Shovel a lot.
Shovel up.
That's what I get.
Persimmon says otherwise.
Yeah.
Ask me
You
in
haven't heard
April.
that?
No.
Uh,
I'm talking about Google it.
And I haven't consulted the woolly worms either.
What's the same? I think
We have.
Okay.
The best I can say is that by the time we lock down things and I print out the copy for the March meetings, the worst will have come and gone, and we'll know.
Well, there you go. Excellent.
Although there have been big snowstorms in March too. What can I say?
Not for a while.
Property taxes appear to be running better than budgeted. Sales tax is slightly better than budgeted, but not as good as 2 years ago. We're talking small margins here, and the economy is relatively static. Car sales have kept pace with inflation. Natural gas sales have been down. Gas prices were down for a while. They're heading back up. And so even if next year is the same as this preceding year, probably that'll bounce back up a little. Can't budget for too much of that though. I've done some preliminary rough operations budgets, knowing that there's some unforeseen shoals out there, but some other things I've overestimated, and that'll generally come together usually in my behalf, but I'm still holding conservative on both revenue and expenditure operations. And we have bought most of the heavy items that we're going to build by this year, so I know what that's turned out to be. And the upshot is that I think that we will end the year with the budgeted contingencies plus about 10,000 to the good. And while I'm not going overboard in budgeting for any new revenues at the moment, it looks like I can accomplish the following things. Beyond just bare bone operations as usual, which is how we've done it. We've done Wadowski's incremental budgeting. And we don't do zero sum around here because it's too much of a crystal ball game as it is. The notable items we would do besides general operations would include the recorder system has a maintenance and a warranty cycle that would probably cost us $6,110 next year when it comes up for another renewal. I think that's an every 3-year cycle. We probably should replace a pickup in general fund, police department. In the numbers I have here, I did take into account, I knew something was coming. I put in 5,000 as a placeholder, but you guys will need to give me instructions on that. I budgeted another 7,500 for housing demolition and construction program, which is the same as we've had for the last several years. When in the police department, I talked to the chief about what his request was going to be, and it seems to be that they're going to recommend that we go to the highway patrol to see if we get a used four-wheel drive vehicle, similar to what Sandy drives now. They have a lot of operational flexibility in the wintertime, which is, given a couple of storms we've had, that's a great thing to have. And the highway patrol has gone to using those sorts of vehicles more than they used to, so it is quite possible that the chief can come up with a good moderate mileage vehicle to purchase for say 18,000. That's the number I'm using right now. And we would take the four-wheel drive that Sandy is using, put that into the rotation in lieu of a patrol car. Sandy would get the new car purchased from the highway patrol for dog catcher and other operations, and we would get rid of one of the existing patrol cars, whatever one is giving us the greatest maintenance cost. So net cost to the city would be right now 18,000. We're not adding to the fleet, but we're doing some rotation. It may be that they decide they would rather that they put the new used car from highway patrol into the normal officer rotation and let Sandy keep her car for a little bit longer. It's still in reasonably good shape, right?
The general thought is this. Sandy's truck right now has got 93,000 miles on it. Still got a lot of life left. We've got some patrol cars with over 100,000 miles on it. I drive a white Lumina, or sorry, Impala. It has 63,000 miles. We just recently took the brown car, geez, put it in service as a pool car. Because we were running into some maintenance issues as far as miles being built up. The blue cars, we put over 40,000 miles on it a year. The white car will go in service that I currently drive to one of the officers. One of the Crown Vics, that's still up here, which one will be replaced, we'll sell it outright, get rid of it, because the fact is, it's costing us too much money. I will probably drive the other truck, because the fact is, one, in our experience, it's a lot easier to keep one person responsible for a vehicle to get the most use out of it, most wear out of it. And, you know, I we're gonna get the most bang for our buck. We're gonna get longer life out of them, that's why Chief's got the blue car again now with the 132,000 miles on it. If you see it recently, it doesn't look like that. That's our thought right now. I don't know for any reason why it would change. So just general around the town kind of thing, it's gonna be, you're gonna have the cars driving around town. John, you look like you have a question.
I'm just trying to follow all this again. The white truck, what happens to Sandy's truck again?
I'll probably end up driving it.
You'll drive it, okay.
Because like I said, with what I'm doing anymore, I'm so stinking busy with paperwork, it doesn't even matter.
Right. And then you would get a SUV type deal for, and that would go into service around town?
No. Sandy would end up with some type of a four-wheel drive vehicle, probably a pickup, because the fact is she's requested a pickup, because with the dirty animals she hauls and everything else, she
Makes
says
sense.
an SUV will not work.
Got it, okay.
Period. And is the
Highway
best thing
Patrol
I
has
know.
pickups?
Yes, they do.
All right. and
Commercial
it's-
motor vehicle inspectors, a lot of that stuff does.
Yeah.
All right.
Are they full-sized or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full-size extended cab.
Now, why does Sandy have to have a four-wheel drive vehicle?
It's not necessarily Sandy has to have a four-wheel drive vehicle, but it gives us versatility during the winter time, because we drive that truck all the time.
Well, I understand,
We drive it all the time in the winter.
but can we get a two-wheel drive cheaper and put Sandy in a two-wheel drive?
That doesn't give
Then
us
that's the
versatility in the
purpose
winter.
of having. a
Because
full-drive vehicle
we
in the
use
winter.
we use that vehicle for patrol in the winter time. Because the fact is, those cars don't get around.
When the snow's on.
And you're not gonna save that much money to two-wheel drive anyway, not on a used car.
A couple years ago, it was the only vehicle they had that could get around.
Yeah.
And Ford Chevrolet loan.
Yeah, then Ford Chevrolet.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
But you need at least one vehicle you can carry dogs in. Patrol officers are disinclined to carry dogs.
They frown on it a little bit,
Yeah.
putting those animals in the back of their cars.
Instead, they carry drunks who Ralph on the back seats.
Don't ride on my.
6 1
Yeah.
Should
So
we get pickups for them too?
the other thing
Oh,
that
I've got all
that's
that.
Wow.
quite undeterminate, but I believe I mentioned before, we have storm sewer that goes basically from the laundromat underneath the tracks, underneath the parking lot chance, and out the other side, and from about midway in the parking lot south, that pipe has never been replaced and it's rusting. And I tried to crawl through it, well, wade through it. It's about a 5-foot tall pipe, but it has a sag and some blockages and a lot of sand, and I was not able to determine, even right at the end of the dry season, good condition on it beyond what Phil reports to me. I was unable to do it on those stones. Needs to be cleaned out, but it also needs to be lined with gunite or something.
That's one of his other hats that
I'm gonna say.
he is.
Well,
And
I put on spare boots and a light and got in the manhole in the alley behind the laundromat and started forward. And before I got anywhere close to Railroad Street, it was over the top of the boots and getting less headroom. And I don't know whether there's a blockage farther on or whether there is over the time a sag underneath the railroad tracks or what, but not having snorkel gear, I was not going to attempt to go any farther. So,
You let someone know when you're doing this, right?
I was just saying, this should have been like a field trip.
you can fit in that pipe much better than
I just,
I'm sorry.
Is there anything else on that?
I did have people at the manhole.
with a rope around your waist,
No.
That's,
that's the way they do it in
confined,
the movies.
yeah.
I
What
know.
have you been
In a
snatched?
confined
Well,
space.
that's why I made the decision not to endanger myself and come back when. I would imagine the pipe at some point is at least half full with water, or was at the time. And we need to pump it dry and we need to clean it out
to better determine. But that is something that's not going to last an extended period of time, and it is fairly expensive per foot, but you can do it in segments, and so I got a placeholder here of 22,000, which is not gonna touch very much of it.
Are you talking about lining it or replacing it?
No, I can't replace it in their tracks, it's gotta be lined at least partially. I mean, you could probably replace the part from the alley to Railroad Street, and I don't know the relative cost on that, something to look into. I want to start with the segment underneath the parking lot, because that's where the heavy weight of the top of it is.
Is that a corrugated pipe?
Yeah. The old stuff is. I think we used maybe a plastic coated pipe for the part that we replaced back when Randy McDowell was here. And we open cut that, but Chance didn't have nearly as much going on in that parking lot at the time. We wouldn't have, it would have to be a Keystone Cops speeded up sort of job to replace it in situ. It just, I think we'd be better off doing a sprayed on lining, but it's still not cheap. That's sort of the kind of thing you can put a lot of money into, and so between that and now the credit request, to the extent that we don't spend money this year or hopefully revenue estimates can be budgeted up a little for next year, those two things would presumably be the objects that I could enhance the amount of money you put into. Or you could put more money into housing demolition. There was a time when our whole program was going to be, let's buy one house and tear it down each year, and then that lasted exactly 1 year because the budget got eaten up for a variety of reasons.
I'm not sure I'm inclined, I don't know where everybody else is, to raise the amount that we give, but I would be more inclined to put limits on timetables, like we discussed earlier. Yeah.
Okay. Second question, because I asked her before and didn't get clear guidance, I don't believe. Do I continue totally on first come, first serve, or should I make, if there's still any available business, houses that have been, for better word, condemned, that have received dangerous structure notices, to help them complete demolition, if that's the course they choose? Because otherwise it does become basically an enhancement to encourage a developer to tear down a house and presumably replace it with a new one. Even if you're only paying for the demolition and not the full subsidy that the other type of contract envisioned, you're doing work for Mr. Ware received a demolition subsidy, started on the footers now with a new house finally. I believe that's number 19 for the year.
I'd rather see the money go to something that is likely to be redeveloped rather than something that is just being condemned because somebody didn't bother to take care of it in the first place.
True.
You know, I just assume they spend their money if they were gonna let it go into that disrepair in the first place.
The argument I would make for the alternative is that the reasons they have declined sometimes, not always, but sometimes have been because of the limited funds available to people who own them.
I kinda like the idea of doing 50%, like he said, of the people. 50% of the money go to the people that are gonna build a house, or rebuild it, or do construction, and 50% of it, and then both of those go as first come, first.
So are we making that part of a contractual agreement then, that they must within a certain amount of time?
Yes.
Yes.
The contracts have a fixed period of time by which they must
I'm
complete the
talking about,
demolition.
no, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact they're gonna build a house afterwards.
Yes.
I mean, how are you making the determination that there's going to be something done after the demolition occurs?
That should be
It
part of
hasn't
the
become
contract.
necessary to every.
Well, I understand, well, that's what I'm saying, so I mean, do we go into some interesting ground here when we say, okay, you must, they say they're gonna do a duplex, end up doing a house instead, do we hold that against them? They build anything, do we hold it against them? I'm just curious what the
Well,
parameters.
besides the simple fact that
okay.
you only $1,500 and you're budgeting 7,500, you have an odd amount, so you can't make it 50/50.
40/20, whatever.
It's not a decision that has to be made tonight, but if your inclination is to not have a bigger subsidy, that's step one, and that's what I need for budget.
Sure, sure.
If you think you need to go 9,000 or 12,000 or something like that.
What is the
Let me
budget,
know.
right? What was it?
So the budget's been 7,500, and that's what
That's 5 houses a
is
year.
penciled in here.
And that's just 5 houses?
That's right. Just 5 houses.
Specifically for tearing down, because you get 3 for tearing one down and building.
No,
If you sign a contract to that effect, but nobody has followed through. Stidham was going to, and then decided he wasn't going to, and that's why there's still a vacant lot over on Jenkins Street.
Yeah, but say if you did sign, you get 3 instead of just the regular. If you did sign the contract to do it.
If we did the
House or
full-blown replacement incentive at 3,000,
Mhm.
then it would be, the same budget amount would do 2 houses new
A little bit.
and leave 1 for purely demolition.
Mhm.
At the, this was originally the city's attempt at urban renewal, and it got, for a while, overtaken by events. We were growing. For a while, we didn't have as many new subdivisions we have now, so there were fewer opportunities. And so private development, the private sector took care of our problem for us to a great extent. Some of the worst houses around have been taken care of by developers like Jackie, and other people.
I mean, my
They
feeling
didn't
on
have
it
an
is,
incentive on it either.
I'd rather leave the 5 houses for demolition and none for building. If we want to put the contract such that some of those are for also rebuilding, I wouldn't have a problem with that per se. But I look at this as the incentive to tear it down, is that gets rid of an eyesore that's a problem now.
It helps the whole neighborhood.
It helps the whole neighborhood. A vacant lot, sooner or later, will sell and develop, almost certainly. Because there's just too much money in a vacant lot to be sitting there and leave it vacant forever. So sooner or later, those will sell. And somebody is probably going to buy them with the intent of building on them.
So you propose that we do only demolition
Yeah.
out of this fund, so that there is no, if you sign a contract, then you get 3 versus the 1,000, just
Right.
only demolition.
I mean, that would be my feeling on it, because I think it takes care of some eyesores in the town that sorely need taken care of.
John? do you have to say?
Of the last 5 houses that we've funded the demolition, how many of them, in all practical purposes, would have been demolished anyway?
One was crumbling, that's the one Darren did, the 2-story plantation house, which has not been replaced. Next one was the house damaged by fire, which has not been replaced. Then the one next to it, that Mr. Ware bought, tore down, and is starting to build. He was originally going to build a duplex, but it's going to be only a single-family house.
This one over here.
The apartment building, which was once a single family across the street, which is,
Parking lot now.
yeah, it's not gonna be a new house.
And lastly, the one at the end of Sneed Street, which was vacant for a long time and has been torn down, but as far as I know, there are no plans to replace it with a new house anytime soon.
Is that the one we rezoned? No, no.
No.
That was the other one.
That's
not
Mr. Weir.
Mr. Weir. Yeah, yeah.
And he is acting on it.
We rezoned that, but now he's not gonna put it
Yeah.
there.
We rezoned actually both fire damaged lot and the lot next door.
Because he gave us the plans of
Yeah.
exactly how the duplex is.
Okay, you've explained what we funded.
What we didn't fund was the house.
Wait, no. Of those that we funded, how many of them would have happened anyway,
Without the funding?
without the funding? The house that burnt, was the insurance company probably helping on that, or no insurance company, or?
I do not know.
And,
The one, Mr. Ware's building one probably would still be there. The one at the end of Sneed would have received a dangerous structure notice and would be down. The one Darren took down is, it wasn't at the stage where I could hang my head on something to give him a notice. And the one across the street was deteriorating, but it wasn't at that stage either. It was an eyesore, but it wasn't a dangerous structure. So those incentives kind of moved it along before it got to the critical mass.
okay.
And what still is outstanding is Jaegers at least, and the one on Pool Street, and,
Hickman Street.
well, Hickman Street, when the Reverend gets his mortgage paid off and it's real and truly his, it will come down.
No, I'm talking about, there's another one down there that's
North-
in the
north-
trees.
North Hickman.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that belongs to the guy from Hallsville.
I don't know, it didn't belong to, I just.
It's
right
been
now.
vacant for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it didn't belong to.
So there's one on the corner that doesn't quite meet it, but the one
The
I
one
think you're referring to
Directly behind
has a
it.
bad roof over the porch.
Porch and then
Yeah.
there's a hole
Yeah.
there in the back, yeah.
And also the one owned by the bank down on South Allen.
Yeah, the two, and then the other one here, it too, the one that was, yeah, the guy that was on in Hallsville.
Then you're wanting guidance as to what number from the budget for now, right?
Yeah. I'm sensing 7,500 continues as the number.
That's why I just wanted to move the meeting on.
Because you've discussed
I,
at least
I'm
one
good with that.
pressing
I'm
need
good
you
with
would
that
like
for now.
to go.
I'm with that for now. Then discussing the changing of the specific rules, I think we can do later on, but
Okay.
putting that number out, I think is fine. I mean, at least it's consistent with what we've done in the past.
It's draft budget, really,
Exactly,
really
that's the point,
draft budget.
exactly.
But, I mean, the purpose is, this discussion gives me an idea of what your priorities are.
Sure.
Or if I can't discern that, I ask outright, and you tell me what you're gonna trade off.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Ultimately, the idea is to end up with the contingencies at the budgeted amounts and zero unencumbered otherwise. And the contingency amounts should cover true contingency. And will be on the order of 341,000 plus the 134 that we're keeping in it, sort of escrow for Randolph Street and curb and gutter on No Chance. Those are committed for those purposes, but we're actually increasing on this, at least the contingency by 2%, because that is approximately what inflation rate's gonna be. I'll make small adjustments. Right now it's 2.2, I think it's coming down because gas is coming down. So November and December should be somewhat lower. We'll see.
Do we have any near-term plans on continuing the Mile Street project?
It's not in here.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I wanted, because I thought, I believe I expressed this in a past meeting, that dealing with the pipe underneath the Chance parking lot might be a little bit more pressing, although I don't have my own eyewitness to confirm that. It would be
well to deal with that before we tackle Mile Street on the far side.
So you're looking at that another year or so down the road?
Another year down the road. Unless you determine that you want to do that. That's one where, depending on how much you have, you might have to break it into 2 segments to get the whole stretch done. They did yeoman's job going as much as they did. But it was somewhat narrower in that stretch than the stretch downstream.
The weather helped.
The weather helped, and while you got it.
Yeah.
That was a stretch that would have been very difficult to do had it been raining every week or 2.
Yeah.
We'd still be working on it. On the other hand, we did that to the detriment of other projects the street crew could be working on. We never did get around to striping streets or bike lanes. There are several curb and gutter projects I wanted done, and we didn't get the chance to do it. There's some more sidewalk that I would have wanted to replace, and it's still possible we'll do some of that this fiscal year, but once you got started on Mile Street, you had to do a full court press, and that meant other things didn't get done. So next year, besides spending money on that one project, which would be a contracted job, the crews would work on a lot more maintenance.
As Mayor Rice.
Can I get I called David this week about the camera equipment. I'm sure he's ready to have it back.
An update. We placed an order through Radio Shack, just with the purpose, it was almost the same as we could get it through Amazon or anybody else. It's been bought with an lengthy power cord and patch cord, whatever it is. There is a small part that was supposed to be with it, an adapter that didn't come the way it was supposed to. So the camera's sitting over at Radio Shack and we're waiting for the adapter part. When that's there, we'll mount it right on the edge of the,
You won't be able to hide so much.
yeah, well, you move it up. Actually, you get a better angle from there, but there's no speaker over there for the camera to pick up without an extended mic. So I think we'll still go over at that corner. We'll run a conduit down to the power. And as I was discussing with you this evening, rather than building a little box and putting a computer hard drive in it, for right now, we're going a cheap route, and after council meetings, Heather can take her laptop over and go download it. And after committee meetings, somebody can come in the next morning and download it. So all we'll have is the labor to install, mounted on the ceiling, maybe a few brackets and stuff like that, and a conduit to run the power cord. And we'll see what, the camera was $230 or something like that. It's getting to be a very cheap project.
Good.
And with any luck, not a task that will require any extra manpower or anything like that.
Maybe the school board could learn something here so they could get art on tape, harassing them.
Or at least quit harassing us.
You know, ideally, the easy way would be to have a very tall person plug in a flash drive and download it.
Well, I mean,
but having just a cord down and taking a computer over it is.
Yeah, the activity of transferring is inconsequential.
Yeah.
The actual uploading is something you start and you don't sit and watch it upload. You start it and you can go do other things.
Right.
So it's certainly not a labor-intensive action.
So, well, you know, it's not like,
The only,
it's not gonna win Academy Award for cinematography, but it seems to be doing the job.
other than when people forget to turn off the camera at the end of the meeting,
Which you had to edit.
which I had to edit out.
Oh,
The last one, the one I was not here for.
I object to editing that out.
As soon as it was adjourned is where I stopped the meeting.
Thank you.
So, and that's what I try to do for all of
Thank
us,
you.
as soon as we return. Do it before it stops.
Okay.
So,
You got one more part of it.
I'm sorry.
Go to close session.
You got a close session.
Oh, I know, I agree. So I'm actually gonna go stop the camera right now. We can start if we.
No, would you stop it after we made the vote?
Yeah, we gotta take a vote first.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
And then you
Oh,
can
okay,
stop
sorry,
it,
sorry,
and
excellent,
when we
sorry.
file back in, you can start it up again, long enough for us to vote,
That's fine.
to adjourn.
Absolutely, yes.
Could take it in closed session.
I move that we go into,
He's got the,
oh, he's got
ver-
to.
the, right,
Verbiage.
verbiage, somebody's gotta read it.
What, I'll read it and then you can move it. Somebody should move that the Board of Aldermen, elect to go into closed session and hold a closed vote. And the purpose of such closed session and closed vote shall be preparation, including any discussions or work products on behalf of the city of Centralia or its representatives for negotiation with an employee group as provided under section 610.021 subsection 9 of the revised statutes of Missouri.
So moved. Do I hear a second? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
That is unanimous.
Yes, unanimous. I just gave, indicate nay.
Thank you, Don.
Yes.
Mr. Beckett, if, you'd like to get some of that information.
That wasn't my copy of the budget.
What's on your copy?
Let's adjourn while he's
What you
gone.
guys do?
Wrong turn it out, Kirby.
Let's adjourn while he's gone. Are we have anything else?
Return to open session was right before adjourn. Anything else?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Sorry.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay, I wasn't even here.
We're trying to get it before you came back.
Motion
There we
carries.
go again.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't even go fast around here.
You ain't finishing. Which, by the way, we did.
You guys taking walks and activities?